Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about multiple subjects, including a storm headed to the northwestern United States that could bring another snowstorm for the Rockies and the Cascades, which we just had a massive one as well. And we're also going to talk about the eastern United States, where another storm could move in, bringing severe weather and flooding as well, alongside an Arctic blast that's going to come in behind it. Anyways, before we get into things, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, how would you rank this October? How do you think it's gone in your region? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and we're taking a look at that snowfall out west that happened with that major snowstorm. This one, I honestly, over here at Direct Weather, we called this one earlier. This one might be one of our earliest calls for a very accurate storm. I mean, ever. This might be one of the best ones in history of this channel, honestly. We probably about 7 days before this one indicated that it was a very good chance of happening, and sure enough, the models just had a great handle on it. Again, a lot of that credit goes to the models. I mentioned this a couple of days ago because they just had an amazing handle on it. Those magentas are indicating 12 to 24 inches of snow, so that's widespread throughout portions of Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And then those kind of golds are 24 inches plus, so we had a very I would say there's a good three regions right there, pretty large regions, high elevation areas that had 24 to 36 inches of snowfall. We were saying that the max would be about 3 feet, and that ended up, being about the max here. We had around 32 inches in some of those maximum regions, but very widespread, 12 to 24 inches was the biggest area for sure. Now, that one's almost all said and done, but as we can see, we're taking a look at this morning here on the European model, and there is some snowfall still going on, some snow showers. That major storm you could see up there in southern Canada is that big snowstorm that had moved out. You can see it's a 992 millibar low pressure center, so this is a pretty strong storm, and it is finally done for the most part. You can also notice a lot of precipitation down there for Texas, and that extends all the way up to the Great Lakes. That is the beginning of our big eastern storm, and by the time we reach Friday afternoon, you could see that a lot of that storminess moves up into the Ohio Valley and some of the plains regions. Where there will be a severe weather threat, we have a slight risk right now. We'll move on and talk about that in a moment, but the Cape is going to be kind of marginal, I would say. It doesn't even look like we have too many regions with 1,000 amounts. Those greens probably are those areas that are approaching 1,000, but the Cape isn't extremely impressive. Wouldn't be surprised if this is mostly a wind threat for sure. But by the time we reach about Saturday morning time frame, maybe 8 a.m. on Saturday, you could see a lot of that storminess moves up into West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, even New England getting included here as well. The low pressure center is a 1004 millibar low pressure center over pretty much Pittsburgh there. And here is that day two categorical outlook. We have a marginal risk there in the darker green where isolated severe weather is possible. And then we have that yellow region where we have a slight risk, and that is where scattered severe weather is possible throughout that region. So we're going to be on the watch out for that on Friday and through Saturday morning. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to where this storm kind of becomes a little bit of a nor'easter and brings a lot of the flooding that is going to be possible with it. And then we're going to move on, take a look at another categorical outlook, take a look at the temperature anomalies, total rainfall, and then we're going to move on to that potential snowstorm out west. All right, now here we are taking a look here at when this one kind of becomes a nor'easter. It does become a bit of a coastal storm here. You can see that low pressure center is offshore of Long Island, and it does take on a lot of the characteristics of a nor'easter. Probably nothing major as far as wind. There will be some pretty persistent rainfall though. And you can see that rainfall actually stretches from Florida up through the Carolinas, the Mid-Atlantic, and even up through New England as well. So it's going to be widespread along the eastern seaboard. And by the time we reach about Sunday afternoon, that pretty much moves out. We do have some lake effect rain showers. Super interesting there. I would be curious to see how cold it's going to be for some of those regions and see if it's even close to being a snowfall event. But it is cold enough to bring some lake effect precipitation, as you can see, which is pretty interesting. I do think it could be a big lake effect here, so that is kind of a sign that really reinforces that thought, in my opinion. Day three categorical outlook here, so this is going to be Saturday through Sunday morning. And as you can see, we have a marginal risk. Wouldn't be surprised to get a little bit of a slight risk in there if things look a little bit worse, because that is a large marginal region there in that darker green. That extends from northern Virginia all the way through portions of southern New England. Super interesting. Also, that Arctic blast is taking place. Well, the first one, it's kind of a cool down because it's not too significant. It does come from Canada, though, which I usually consider an Arctic blast regardless because it's coming from the Arctic regions and blasting down to the United States. That's my definition. But as you can see on kind of Sunday night, we can see that there is going to be temperatures in the blues that are about 1 to 7 degrees below normal, and then in the greens about 10 to 15 degrees below normal. So it will be a pretty good click below normal for a lot of these regions, especially the darker blues and those greens. But we've been in such above normal temperatures that I think this is going to feel pretty significant for most of these areas. And then the total precipitation with this one, if you're anywhere in the grays, greens, or blues, that is where you're under an inch. Therefore, pretty much mostly just a nuisance rainstorm, just typical rainstorm, nothing significant. But if you are in those yellows, you're expecting 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. The reds are going to be 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. And this is only through the next few days, about the next 4 days, I would say. And I mean, taking that into consideration, I mean, to get 2 to even maybe 4 or 5 inches of rainfall in that time frame, I think that could cause some flooding, especially there in those red regions, like I said before, because that is where we're in those multiple inches of rainfall within just a few days. So yeah, there could be some significant rainfall associated with this storm for these regions, according to the models. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on and talk about the West, because there is a big storm heading to you guys as well that we need to talk about. All right, now by the time we are reaching about Saturday at about, I'd say 11 p.m., so we're kind of moving backwards here just to head west and take a look at this one. They will be kind of happening at the same time. We can see there's a storm offshore of the Pacific Northwest. If you head north towards Canada, you can see there is some significant snowfall taking place for those mountainous regions there. Now, by the time this one moves onshore, Sunday afternoon, maybe 3 p.m. or so, we can see that a trough is moving in with it. This is pretty typical, pretty standard for a storm to do, but that does bring the risk for snowfall there for the Cascades. You can see we're having some pretty solid snowfall for those mountainous regions. And then by the time we reach about 2 a.m. here on Monday, so it'll be a little bit colder since it's nighttime, we can see Northern California seeing some snowfall, a lot of Oregon, and then the Cascades there in Washington. I think it's called the Cascades still when you head up into Washington. I know it is in Oregon, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not from there, never been there, but I'm trying to inform myself more on the geography and everything of the West. But I think that all is the Cascades there. We also see some of that snowfall heading into Idaho as well, which is pretty interesting. And eventually, by the time I reach about 2 p.m. here on Monday, you can see that we do have some heavy snowfall ongoing for the Rockies as well. These areas that just received multiple feet of snowfall might see some a few inches to maybe even a foot on top of that snowfall, which is super interesting. And by the time I reach Tuesday morning at about 11 a.m. or maybe earlier, we can see that this one pretty much comes to an end, and we see a high pressure system develop and a bit of a ridge as well, so that might melt some of that snowfall. Now, as far as total snowfall is concerned, here it is. If you're anywhere in the blues or grays, you're under 6 inches of snowfall, which for some regions might be significant, but for others in high elevation areas, it's probably nothing more than a nuisance snowstorm. But once we head into the purples, that's where you're at 6 to 10 inches of snowfall, which is becoming more significant, especially on top of already multiple feet for some of these areas. And then the pinks is going to be 10 to 20 inches of snowfall. And I would say there's probably mostly like 10 to 15 inch amounts there in the peaks there of the Rockies. So it's nothing like our first snowstorm, but it is pretty significant for some regions, you know, over a foot. And especially on top of that snowfall is only going to add on to things. Super interesting there. And then this model, the European model, does have a massive Arctic blast, just like the GFS model that we took a look at yesterday. By Saturday afternoon on October 23rd. This is still very far out, so we're going to take it with a grain of salt, but these models are indicating that a positive PNA is likely with a pretty significant chance at cold air in the east. Super interesting pattern we might find ourselves in, and I can't wait to talk more about it. For today's confidence tab, we're actually at a 5 out of 6 because, like I said, both these storms that we talked about are happening within the next 5 days, so they're kind of in the short to medium range, which is really good news. We have a pretty good handle on it, I'm sure. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys yesterday, how do you think November is going to go? And James Marr said, I believe it will be a very flip-flop kind of month, where if it's cold, it's very cold, and if it's warm, it's very warm. And I think that depends on where you're at, because very far northern regions probably won't be very warm in November. You know, you're pretty close to winter, and even above normal temperatures aren't very warm. But definitely, I could see the chance for very cold, especially compared to what we've had here in October. Even if we have, slightly below normal temperatures, let's say 5 to 10 degrees below normal, that's going to feel very cold considering we've had 5 to 10 degrees above normal for a lot of regions throughout the month of October. I mean, you're looking at a 10 to 20 degree difference when you compare those two types of patterns we've been in and potentially will be in. Now, for today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Lure the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, and Patrick Strickland as well. I would also like to thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Quidalessa, Catbite, Charles Tennant, Cindy Klein, Alan Goodmaben, Bill Dallas, Gary's, John Calisi, Dwight Phelan, Stephen Crenenthal, and Thomas D. Barr as well. If you'd like to be a part of this very awesome patron entry of the day, you can do so by joining our very amazing Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comments down below. I would also like to thank our channel members Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. If you'd like to join this one, it'll be next to the subscribe button down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.